Any doubts, guys, so far, like in the previous sessions, whichever we have discussed, right? If you need any help, please let me know while creating the subscriptions. You guys need any kind of assistance from me? Okay. Okay. So in the previous sessions, we have discussed about. Let me show you our curriculum day by day. What we are discussing. The course content you can go. Yeah. Okay. In the day one, we have discussed about the data engineering demonstration, and the day two, how to install SQL Server Management we have discussed, and in the day three, how to create a Azure Fabric subscription we discussed, and in the next session, we discussed about the different kind of storage accounts, blob, data lake, general, and lakehouse. In today's session, I'm going to discussing about the Azure SQL database, Synapse data warehousing, and data warehousing in the Fabric. So, if you remember, in the previous session, we were discussing about different kind of storage services available inside this Azure cloud environment, right? So, what we discussed about the storage account in the Microsoft Azure. We discussed about the lake house in the Microsoft Azure Fabric. So there are three more services available inside the Azure. We have Azure SQL DB and Synapse Data Warehousing. Inside this Azure, we have a Azure SQL DB and Synapse Data Warehousing, and we have a data warehousing. Okay, let me explain you very clearly what exactly this Azure SQL database, in what kind of situations we can able to use, and how to use that one. Okay, let's for example, I have a supermarket. From the supermarket, I have a supermarket. From the supermarket, whenever there is a business is happening, ideally so far what we have done, we have stored that data into our local system, local SQL server, right? In my local computer, in the on premises, when you have a SQL server, we can able to store the data inside that one SQL server. It's my local computer. This is my SQL server, and here we have a supermarket. We have a supermarket. From this supermarket, we are going to connect into this SQL server, and then that data we are loading into storage account. Correct? So sometimes what will happen, instead of installing this SQL server in our local computer and storing of the supermarket transactions data inside here, we want to store the same data into a SQL database inside the Microsoft Azure portal. So we are storing of the data inside Azure SQL database. We are going to create one database inside the Azure, that is called Azure SQL database. Then what will happen, directly from this supermarket, we can able to store the data in the Azure SQL database. This is Azure. Inside this Azure, we have Azure SQL database. So unfortunately, this service is not yet implemented in the Microsoft Azure yet. Simple. From your business data, from your business data, whatever the transactions data from the supermarket, this is a billing counter. So when can we use local computer SQL server to store your business data? When can we use SQL database, Azure SQL database? 10 years back or 15 years back, the old projects, when you are implementing, the old projects when we are implementing, we can able to use this Azure SQL database, sorry, SQL server in our local computer. Because that time we don't have Azure cloud to store our business data. Azure storage is introduced from last 6 years or 7 years hardly. The older projects, when let's take it Walmart, it was from last 20 years. Supermarket is there. That time when they are implementing the project, they have SQL server in their local computer to store their business data. Am I right? But latest projects when they are implementing, instead of storing their business data in the local computer, they are going to store that into Azure SQL database over here. They can store that data into Azure SQL database over here. Now, whatever the data we have in Azure SQL database, that data where we are going to move, we will move into a data warehousing. This is called Synapse Dedicated SQL Pool, or we can call it as a data warehousing DWH. We can call this as a data warehousing over here. For example, if your data is in local computer, the data we will first move to storage account. From this SQL server to storage account. From the storage account, we will move to data warehousing. This is the ideal solution. Storage account yesterday we created, right? Say data lake, Gen 2 or blob storage. Storage account, data lake, Gen 2 or blob storage. So how we are going to do? How to clean up this data? By using data bricks. How to move the data from local SQL server to storage account? By using data factory. How the data will come from this billing counter to Azure SQL database? It's automatically, whenever there is a transaction is happening, then we are able to perform that. Okay. So whenever there is a transaction is happening, where in this billing counter, automatically that data will come to Azure SQL database. If the data is coming to the Azure SQL database, then you don't need to do any kind of, you don't need to use any other ETL tools to move the data. But when you are storing the data in your on-premises, you need to migrate that data into first storage account, not into the Azure SQL database. From this storage account, we will move to the Synapse data warehousing by using a Databricks. We will clean up the data over here. Is it clear, guys, for everyone? How the process and the projects are implementing? Can you guys please confirm? Is this structure what I have explained? Is it clear? I'm expecting this from everyone. Okay. Let me repeat again. Let me repeat again. I have a data in my, whenever there is a transaction is happening in a supermarket, say customer will come to supermarket, right? A customer will come to supermarket. From the supermarket, customer will come to the supermarket. A customer will come to the supermarket. From the supermarket, in the billing counter, when there is a transaction happening, if that project has implemented to store the transactions data in a local computer SQL server. Inside, if we have a database, it will store the data. From that SQL server, we need to migrate the data into storage account by using a data factory. From this storage account, we will move the data into Synapse data warehousing by creating a Databricks over here. By using the Databricks, we can able to perform the transformation techniques, cleaning of the data. This is one project flow. Another project flow is there is no SQL in our local computers. There is no SQL in our local computers. The data will come to this Azure SQL database. From this billing counter, directly the data will come to Azure SQL database. From this Azure SQL database, we will move to Synapse Dedicated SQL Pool data warehousing over here. This is another project flow. We need to identify whether their business data is storing in Azure SQL database or it is storing in the SQL server in my local computer. Now you are able to understand, right? So once the data is coming to this Synapse data warehousing, inside the Fabric, we have a Power BI concept. By using that Power BI, we can able to connect it to this data warehousing and designing the reports and dashboards. This is the project flow. Mostly we have currently in the real time. By using Power BI, we will connect into the Synapse data warehousing and bringing the data and designing of the Power BI reports. Okay, my client is not using this Microsoft Azure. He wants to use completely Fabric. Then, if they are using Microsoft Fabric and their business data is in the SQL in my local computer, that data first I will migrate into Lakehouse by using a data factory. This is Lakehouse. This is a Lakehouse. We are using the data pipeline. By using a data pipeline, we can use the Lakehouse. From the Lakehouse, we can move the data again into the data warehousing. From the Lakehouse, we can move the data into warehouse. From Lakehouse to warehouse, we are going to move the data over here. From the warehouse, we can able to use the Power BI. From the warehousing, we can move the data into Power BI. So this is how we can able to designing of the reports over here. From local computer SQL server to Lakehouse, Lakehouse to warehouse. So while moving the data from Lakehouse to warehouse, we can use the Databricks notebooks. Here we are calling it as a notebooks. There is no Databricks concept. It's a notebooks. PySpark commands we will write. This is a complete another project flow, and this is another project flow. Two different project flows we are following based on your data source, based on the cloud which you are using. We have to decide which one we need to use it over here. So the one question is how the data is getting moved from Azure SQL database to data warehousing. We are using Databricks tool. There is a Databricks tool. Even from storage account to Synapse, even from Azure SQL database to Synapse, we are using the Databricks. So here the Databricks and notebooks both are same. Here this storage account Lakehouse both are similar kind of services. Here this data factory, data pipeline both are same. Here this warehousing and this warehousing both are same over here. Got it? Mostly 95 percentage these services are looks similar. Mostly 90 percentage these services are looks similar over here. Any questions on this so far? You can send a message in the chat if you guys have any questions over here. No questions, right? Okay. So now, how to create this Azure SQL database? First, let me show you. Let's go to the Azure portal, portal.azure.com. So this Azure SQL database and this Azure SQL database and Synapse Dedicated SQL Pool data warehousing both are having same kind of both are having SQL databases. Azure SQL database and Synapse Dedicated SQL Pool data warehousing both are using to create a database, tables and storing of the data. Then why we need two services over here? Why we need Azure SQL DB? Why we need Synapse Dedicated SQL Pool? What is the key difference between these two? I will tell you. Azure SQL database mostly we are using to store our business transactions data. Synapse data warehousing we will use mostly after data cleaning and transformations, the final outcome of the data we are going to store over there. Azure SQL database we will use to store direct business transactions data. Azure SQL database will be used to store direct business data or the transactions data over here. Synapse dedicated SQL pool data warehousing will be used to store after data cleaning and transforming the final reporting data, whatever the data I want to report it, right? So that data I'm going to use to store in the data warehousing. So from the supermarket to directly when a customer is doing a transaction, that transaction data will come to this one. That means it's a raw data. But in the Synapse data warehousing is it's a cleaned transformed data. So why can't we store that cleaned transformed data also into Azure SQL database? The reason because if you see the data what we are storing in Synapse data warehousing, the Power BI will connect and to take the data to design the reports. So when a customer is seeing the reports, the data from your data source, it's a Synapse, should come more faster. So comparing to Azure SQL DB, Synapse dedicated SQL pool data warehousing is more faster. Why it is more faster? I will show you that syntax, I mean the architecture, why it is more faster, the Synapse data warehousing comparing to Azure SQL database over here. Okay, so why it is more faster, I will show you. If you see, let's for example, I have a Azure SQL database. Inside that database, I have a table, customer table. Inside that customer table, I have 1 lakh rows. Understood? Inside the Azure SQL database, I have a table, customer table. Inside the customer table, we have 1 lakh rows. When you are trying to query select star from customer table, when you are trying to write a query, select star from the customer table to bring the data from this, okay, to bring the data from this customer table. When you are writing the query, when you are writing the query, select star from the customer table, what will happen? There is one single computer will execute to bring the data from this Azure SQL database table, row by row, row by row, row by row. Let's take to bring this 1 lakh rows to execute this query. If it is taking 1 hour time, 1 hour time to display this customer data into Power BI. From this customer table, this computer will execute and bring the data into Power BI to display. It is taking 1 hour time. You just imagine the same table with the same data If you are storing in a data warehousing, Synapse dedicated SQL pool data warehousing, when you are trying to query that data, select star from the customer and that data to display in the Power BI, it will come within 1 minute. Why? The reason is here it is executing single computer, right? Here multiple computers will execute in the back end. Multiple computers will execute in the back end. How many computers? Maximum 60. Okay, G1 to 60 computers will execute. Based on the workload, it will increase the number of computers, and parallelly these computers will execute your query by splitting of small queries. It is just like a normal example. Whenever we are having some work, if that work is shared with multiple people and they are doing parallelly, so that work will complete within 10 minutes, right? If the same work has done by one person, it will take 1 hour. 10 people can finish in 10 minutes. The same work one person is doing, it will take 1 hour. Same logic over here. So this Synapse data warehousing contains a architecture, MPP architecture. Synapse data warehousing contains MPP architecture. What is MPP stands for? Massive Parallel Processing Engine. What this massive parallel processing engine will do? This massive parallel processing engine is going to, this MPP engine, the massive parallel processing engine, is going to be processing of your data parallelly into multiple computers will execute your query at a time. Okay, this massive parallel processing engine, whatever this computer and this computer and this computer, all these computers are executing parallelly and bringing the data over here. Executing of the computers parallelly, all those things. So there is one control node is there. What is this control node will do? That is the main brain of this data warehousing, that will take the queries, requests, what data need from the tools. Let's, for example, Power BI needs some data, so that request will send to this control node. Control node is a brain of human, right? Similarly, this warehouse also needs a control node. It will take that query, it will send that query to MPP engine, massive parallel processing engine. That engine will split that query into small queries, and those queries will be executed parallelly on the each computers. That is called compute nodes. So Microsoft Synapse data warehousing having a control node and MPP engine, and it has a compute nodes. Compute nodes means, what is this compute node? It is a virtual computers. How many will create? 0 to 60 max computers will execute in the backend based on your workload. Control node is a brain of the brain of the data warehouse. Control node is a brain of the data warehouse over here. MPP engine is a massive parallel processing engine over here. Compute node is, it has 0 to 60 maximum computers will be created. 0 to 60 max computers will be created. Clear? Okay. So when the data is processing parallelly, okay, the data is processing parallelly in the back end. For example, total 10 computers are executing. Total 10 computers are executing. Out of these 10 computers, this is computer 1, computer 2, computer 3, computer 4, computer 5. Out of 1 lakh records, how many rows will come to computer 1? How many rows will come to computer 2? How many rows will come to computer 3? What are those rows? Because all computers should not query the same data, right? All computers should not get the same data over here. It has to get different data. So how you are going to splitting of the data out of 1 lakh records, how the data will be split into different computers to bring, that depends on, at the time of creating a table in your data warehousing, at the time of creating a table. For example, I am going to create a table, customer table, which contains these tables. So that time, what kind of distribution you are going to use, then based on that, the data will be split. For example, if you are using round robin distribution, the distribution is equals to round underscore robin. Create a table, customer table. I'm going to have with distribution is equals to round robin over here. I have a customer table, the customer number, customer name, sales city with distribution is equals to round robin. It has round robin over here. So round robin means data will be splitted randomly. That means, for example, I have 1 lakh records, right? Row 1 will come to this computer, row 2, row 3, row 4, row 5, up to 60. Again, 61, 62, 63, 64. Randomly, record by record, row by row, it is going to splitting over here. Randomly, it is going to splitting of the record by record over here. That is called round robin. For example, in place of round robin, if you are putting hash, what will happen? If you are putting hash, what will happen? Hash means you need to specify a column. Let's, for example, if I am specifying city, that means when you have a customer table, different cities customers we have, right? Let me ask ChatGPT to provide. Give me some sample data with similar kind of cities in a table format. See here. Here what will happen when you are putting this, when you are creating a table, that time when you are mentioning distribution equal to hash on the city column, immediately all the immediately the cities Hyderabad, 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 all Hyderabad column, Hyderabad rows will be coming to one computer. All the Vijayawada rows will come to another computer. All Chennai rows will come to another computer over here. Got it? That is called hash distribution. So first computer will get Hyderabad customers information. Second computer Vijayawada. Third computer something else it is going to be getting over here. Is it clear for guys? What is a hash? Can you guys please confirm when I'm specifying the hash, how the data is going to be distributed? Perfect. The third one is replicate. So what do you mean by replicate? Replicate means it is going to have all the rows will be distributed into all the computers. Replicate. These are the three different kind of distributions we have. Replicate when you are doing, for example, this replicate the customer table having 1 lakh records. 1 lakh records will come to computer 1, computer 2, computer 3, computer 4. So ideally this replicate option will not be created on this kind of tables. It can be created on a small lookup tables. Let's, for example, here you have a Chennai Vijayawada. I want to create a table with city code and description, small lookup table. So these kind of tables I will create replicate because I want to join this table with this customer table over here. So that kind of situations, if you are making this small kind of tables as a replicate, it will be available in all the computers. It is easy to joining of the two tables whenever you are querying. Select star from the table 1, inner join with table 2. Table 2 is a small table, right? Better you can replicate in all the computers. It will display all 4 rows into computer 1. It will display querying all tables into all rows into the table 2 as well. That is called replicate. So replicate option will be used for more small tables. Hash can be used for the huge volume of the data like a sales fact sales tables, Round robin can be used for the tables like a customer, product, and stores. These kind of tables we can able to use the round robin over here. So this is how we need to specify the distribution. So because of this reason, the main reason why this Azure Synapse data warehousing is more faster is it has a MPP architecture, massive parallel processing engine architecture. That is the reason our Power BI system is going to be our Power BI system is going to be connecting to this Synapse data warehousing. Same in the Microsoft Fabric also, this warehousing having the same architecture like a Synapse data warehousing. It is also having data warehousing MPP engine. So if your data is in this Fabric warehousing, it will be connected to Power BI to query the data and displaying the data in the Power BI. Okay, so first let me try to create Azure SQL database and Synapse data warehousing. So generally, when we are creating this Azure SQL database and Synapse dedicated SQL pool data warehousing, both will be created in the backend. Both will be created in the backend. Both will be created in the backend on the same logical server. Both will be created in the backend on the same logical SQL server, or you can create any different logical server. Okay. Azure SQL database, Synapse data warehousing database, both you can create on the same logical SQL server. I will show you how to create this logical SQL server, and on that logical SQL server, logical SQL server means it's in the Microsoft Azure cloud environment. There is a SQL server can be created. On that server only you can create a database, Azure database and Synapse data warehousing database. Let's first create a Azure SQL database. Let's go over here. First try to create a project, resource groups, click on create, Azure subscription. My project name I'm going to leave it as a E-class GRP, South India, review and create, click on create, open this project, create, storage account, sorry, which one we want to create? Azure SQL database. Okay, there is a SQL database, click on that, click on create. So when you are creating this SQL database, we have to provide under which subscription you are creating. This is very common. Under which project you are creating. This is very common. What is the database name you want to give? I want to give it as a Azure SQL DB E classes. So this database I want to create on a SQL server. I want to create that logical SQL server. Create new. What is the server name you want to give? E classes SQL 1987. In which location you are going to create this one. Currently East US location is not supporting, then you can use East US 2. You can use East US 2 location. And what kind of authentication it is? It is going to be SQL and Microsoft Enter authentication. Because to connect into the server, you need a username. You can provide any username and password. Okay, this is the username. This is the password we can able to put it in. Then click OK. Sorry, we need to set a admin also. Click on set admin. You can able to add your email address which you are using. This is my email address. Then click OK. All right. So this is how we are creating a logical SQL server in this data center with the username password. Please remember and the admin also. Click OK. So server has created. This is my database name. Sorry, this is my database name. And this data, what you are going to store inside this SQL database, you are creating for development purpose or production purpose. This is a development database only. If you want to create this service for the production environment, you can specify the production. But this is for development. And also, whenever you are going to create this database, when you are trying to store the data, how much storage memory you need, and when you are executing your SQL queries, how efficiently faster you want to execute your queries, you need to specify that compute and storage. Okay, you need to specify the compute and storage over here. So now you can able to click on compute plus storage. You need to click on the compute plus storage. There are different kind of plans we have. There is a DTU model, vCore model. What is DTU model and what is vCore model? vCore model means, when you are buying a laptop, vCore processors we are going to count. Your laptop contains how many vCore processors. Similarly, to execute your SQL queries in the backend, how many vCores you want to select it over here. How many vCores you want to select it over here. There is a general purpose, hyperscale, business critical, different plans we have. If you are selecting general purpose, see per vCore they are going to charge how much per storage per GB 0.12, and let me select the provision. How many vCores you want, that you can able to set it over here. How many number of vCores you want, you can able to put it over here. Per vCore how much amount it is charging, per vCore it is going to charge $184 over here. Per one vCore it is going to charge $184. Okay, so storage cost is this one. How much storage you want, that you can able to set it over here. How much GB. So when I am selecting provisioned means, if you are selecting provision, you need to specify how many vCores you want, how much space you want. If you are selecting provisioned and specifying the number of vCores and storage memory, whether you are using that or not, you need to pay this 368.20 USD dollars per month. That is called provisioned. There is a serverless. What is the serverless? Serverless is all about if you are serverless is all about if you are using this vCores to execute your queries. When you are executing your queries, obviously in the backend that virtual computers will execute, right? Based on the usage, how much data you are storing, how many queries you are executing, according to that only it will be charged. If you are not executing any SQL queries, if you are not storing any data, then it will never charge anything on this database. That is called serverless. So I don't want to use this vCores because vCores are more expensive. Then there is a small model, DTU model. So what is a DTU? Data transaction units. That means each DTU contains certain amount of CPU, RAM, memory, power. If you want to execute your queries more efficiently, you can increase the number of DTUs. Each DTU cost is 1.47 rupees dollars. If you have 10 DTUs, 14.72 is the per month they are going to charge. So in the DTU model, they don't charge for the data storage. They will charge only for the number of DTUs, how many you have selected over here. I hope everyone able to understand DTU model, vCore model. Under the DTU model, there is no serverless. It is a provisioned only. Provisioned means you need to fix how many you want. So I'm going with very basic DTU model with the less storage and click apply. Got it? So there is one more option, SQL Elastic Pool. What is this SQL Elastic Pool? If you see, when I'm creating this database, I'm specifying how many number of DTUs you want, how many number of DTUs you want, how much storage you want. So the charges per month for this database, how much DTUs, how much memory you have selected will be applicable. Okay, again I'm going to create one more database. I'm creating multiple databases. So each database you need to specify how many number of DTUs you want, how much space you want. Microsoft what it is suggesting, hey, instead of specifying that DTU, memories, and vCores or whatever individually on database level, better you can take like a pool common. For example, I will take 100 DTUs, 100 GB memory. So when I'm creating multiple databases, all the databases will be used commonly this 100 DTUs, 100 memory, whatever we are creating like a pool. See, you can select a elastic pool. You can provide that elastic pool name e classes pool. So the next time, now we can able to specify here how many DTUs you want, the configuration you can able to set. Next time when you are going to create another database, right? Today I am creating this database. When I am going to create a new database, you don't need to configure this compute and storage. Whatever the pool you created, right? Simply you can able to select this pool in the drop down over here. Simply you can able to select this pool in this drop down over here. You can able to create this drop down in this pool over here. Got it? Perfect. But I don't want to use this pool, it's more expensive. Let's go to the this one basic plan. And also whatever the data you are storing in this database, if you want to maintain that backup, whether you want to maintain that other two more copies backup in the local or in a different zones or in a different geographical locations or in a different geographical zones, different zones you want to maintain, that you can able to select. That is called backup redundancy. Is it clear, guys? Whatever the Azure SQL database, the options we are creating. Now you can able to see my screen. Okay. Okay. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to simply review and create this one. I'm creating this Azure SQL database. Simply click on create. Okay. Simply let's wait some time. It will take some time to create this one. About 11. అవునా చెప్పకుండా మనం పోయి తెచ్చుకున్నాం.
అప్పుడే నువ్వు గట్టిగా ఒకటి అని చెప్పలా. Thanks.
It's going to be complete. Just hold on. Right, it has created. So once it is created, go inside the resource. The very first step, what we need to do is we need to allow the server firewall. Actually, what is your Azure SQL database server name? The logical server name is this one. You can able to see it over here. This one, and set server firewall. Here you can select the networks and add firewall rules, E classes. You need to add the IP address from minimum to maximum to allow to connect to the server. 255 is the maximum. Okay, then click OK and allow Azure services and resources to access this server. Simply save this one. Okay, done. So this is how we can able to create this server firewall. Then after you can go back to overview, go back to overview, settings, SQL databases. This is the database you created. How to connect into this database? and writing of SQL queries. On the left side, you can see there is a query editor. You need to provide the username password, then click OK. See, now you can able to create table, table name, customer, customer number integer, customer name, varchar. So this is how you can able to create a table, and you can able to create the table. Select start from. There is nothing data. So this is how you can able to create Azure SQL database. Now I want to open same portal. This time I want to create a data warehousing database, Synapse data warehousing. Simply you can go on the top, search for Synapse Dedicated SQL Pool. So it is not showing the Synapse, or you can type for dedicated SQL. See, dedicated SQL pool, formerly SQL data warehousing. So when you are creating same features, subscription, Azure subscription, resource group E class as GRP, and what is the SQL pool you are going to specify? The pool name is, that means data warehousing database. E classes DWH DB. I want to use the same logical server which I created earlier. If you want, you can create a new. So how we are going to specify this performance and storage of the data warehousing? Simply, there is only one model, data warehousing units. Simply click on how many number of DWs you want, you can able to select. Per one DW, the cost is 1.20 USD per hour it is going to charge. It is little bit expensive comparing to the Azure SQL DB, and it is more powerful. Simply apply. I'm selecting very minimal. Now review, create. So these two, Azure SQL database and Synapse data warehousing database, both are costing. Once your practice is completed, you need to delete these resources immediately. So meanwhile, I will show you how to create a data warehousing in the Fabric also. How to create a data warehousing in the Fabric I will show you. We created Azure SQL DB in the Azure, Synapse in the Azure, but how to create a warehouse in the Fabric? Simply, you can go to your project, resource group, open your project, create. First, you need to create a Microsoft Fabric environment, right? Capacity you need to specify. Microsoft Fabric. Select this Microsoft Fabric. Click on create. Here you can able to specify under which subscription you are creating, under which resource group, what is the Fabric capacity name you want to give. Let me give it as E classes Fabric in the central India. The plan I will select basic plan. Simply select review and create it over here. Once this is created, now we need to log into app.powerbi.com. Let's wait this Fabric has to be created. Then you can go inside this app.powerbi.com, create a workspace. Workspace is nothing but a project. Then create a warehouse inside. Just hold on. It has done. Fabric has created, you can able to see. Now refresh this screen, then goes to workspaces, create a new workspace, E classes, WS version 5. So you need to assign that capacity whichever you created. E classes fabric central India. Then click apply. Now we need to create new item. You need to select the warehousing. This is the warehouse. What is the warehouse name? E classes WS V4. Click on create. That is the warehouse name. Very simple. You don't need to specify all the options how you specified in the Azure portal. So under this warehousing, simply you can able to create a tables. Goes to the new query. Now you can able to create tables. Let me copy the scripts. This round robin I will keep. Copy this, paste it over here, and run this. Incorrect syntax here. Sorry. Distribution. Correct it. Correct the syntax. Copy this. Uh, so this is not allowing to specify the distribution. Okay, let me try in the Azure SQL data warehousing. How to open the Azure SQL data warehousing? Resource group, project. Where is your data warehousing? This dedicated SQL pool is created. Go inside. Try to see there is an option for data warehousing. Whenever you don't want, you can pass. But for Azure SQL database, we don't have that option. Now, how to connect into this common tasks? There is a query editor. You can use the username password for connecting to data warehousing. Now you can able to put that code, run this one. So it has executed perfectly. So distribution method is supporting to create in the Synapse Azure. But when you are coming to the Fabric, you no need to specify this one. This is a automatic detection based on the type of the data. You don't need to specify the distribution methods inside the Fabric. Replicate, round robin, or whatever. Automatically according to the data, Microsoft will be decided, Fabric will be decided what kind of distribution is the best. Okay, so whatever the Azure SQL database, data warehousing we created, right? If I want to connect into that from my local computer SQL Management Studio to this Azure SQL database and to this Synapse, is it possible? Yes. Simply open SQL Management Studio and copy your logical server from where you can copy from anywhere. This is your logical SQL server. For Azure Synapse data warehousing, for Azure SQL database, both are the same. Now we can go to SQL Management Studio, which we are opening now. Just hold on. Simply you can able to provide under the server name the logical SQL server name. You can specify the SQL server authentication. What is the username? This one. What is the password? Uh, Let me try this one. Trust server. The password I have entered at the time of connecting actually, creating that logical server. Okay, wrong password. See, this is how you can able to connect it to. This is a Azure SQL database. This is a data warehousing. So where do you want to write down the SQL queries? From local computer SQL Server Management Studio also you can able to connect and writing of the SQL queries over here. So I'm requesting all of you Please delete entire things whatever you created so far. How? Goes to the resource groups, go to the project, delete resource group. If you are deleting Fabric, warehousing, SQL DB, and logical SQL server, everything will be deleted. Otherwise, it will charge more. These are the costliest services. Simply click on delete. Okay. So this is how we have to create all the storage services inside Microsoft Azure. Azure SQL DB, storage account, Synapse data warehousing, Lakehouse, warehouse. Okay, guys, is it clear for this one? Now, if you guys have, can't we create Fabric in app.powerbi.com instead of using Azure portal? Even if you are trying to create in the Azure portal, sorry, Fabric portal, it will route to Azure portal only. You have to delete everything on the same once your practice is completed. Otherwise, it will charge for every minute and every hour. Now, if you guys have any questions, you can able to raise your hands. Any questions from Ram, Santosh, Madhurima, Kotesh, Lavanya, Sailendra? Go ahead the questions.
Hi, Ram. This is Kotesh.
Yeah.
So when you create a data warehouse in powerbi.com, right? So which database you have connected to? Did you connect to
Your
Lakehouse or
voice is
Azure?
very low, Kotesh. Is it for me?
Is it audible now, Ram?
Yes, yes, go ahead now.
Okay. So when you create a data warehouse in Fabric,
Okay.
right? So which database you have connected to? Did you connect to Lakehouse or SQL data, Azure SQL database?
So in the Fabric, whatever the data warehousing database we are creating, right? It's an
Right.
independent service. It is not depends on any other services. It is an independent
Okay.
service, and which is going to be having internally one SQL server will be run in the backend. That we don't create automatically. It will take care of that. That's what
Oh,
the
I see.
Fabric has very simplified.
Okay, got it. Okay. So, but if and is it possible to connect to Azure SQL database uh, from the data warehouse in the Fabric space?
No, you cannot connect. You can connect from Fabric to Azure SQL database by using some ETL tools. But data warehousing is a separate storage, and Azure SQL is a separate storage. For example, I want to copy data from Azure SQL database to data warehousing in the Fabric. That is possible by using a some ETL services like a data pipelines or data bricks notebooks we can use.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. And a storage account is basically two types, Blob and Gen2, or is there any other storage account too?
These two only.
These two only. Okay, okay, that's it.
Okay, so let's connect tomorrow. So from tomorrow onwards, our sessions are going to be happening in our LMS portal. So Ramya will guide you how to log into LMS portal, how to log in and get all the information. Okay, thank you guys.